Good morning, everyone. It is currently the morning of day 2. I quite honestly forgot to record anything yesterday. But I figured I would give you guys like a quick recap of day 1 since I haven't gone in for day 2 yet. So it's 6:45 right now a.m. I am on days for the first 6 weeks of my orientation and nights for the last 6 weeks. So I have a 12-week orientation as a new grad. I guess if you are not a new grad, then it's a 6-week orientation, but I'll take all the weeks y'all give me. So yesterday, didn't really do all that much, quite honestly. It was mainly more just watching, you know, like helping out where I could. I mean, I was a PCA, so like there's certain things obviously like I know how to do, or, you know, grab supplies and stuff like that. And I was just kind of trying to be helpful and not in the way. And obviously, you know, I feel like it's kind of hard because you're just so used to doing PCA stuff and being like, oh yeah, no, I'll like go do, you know, this, that it's something that it's like could be delegated. Not that obviously as a nurse, like I'm too good to do things, you know, like that's definitely not true. But it's just, you know, it's an adjustment to know that like you can delegate and that sometimes like it is appropriate to delegate and you don't have to try to take on the world and do all the roles. That's why we have the different roles to begin with. So yeah, like I said, didn't really do all that much yesterday. I guess here, like our hospital policy is that an assessment, a full assessment has to be charted every 24 hours. So actually on days they don't do it, they do it on nights. So I thought that was interesting. Something that I guess I will do when I orient on nights. And I am night shift full time. So once I'm done with my orientation, I'll be back on nights because as a PCI, I was just on nights. It's really, I mean, the coolest thing I got to do yesterday was like stop IV fluids that was running and, you know, flush and cap it. But other than that, didn't really do all that much. I didn't pass any meds or anything like that. So that's where we're at. So I will check back in at the end of day 2 because she said that I would do like, you know, she was like, hey, well, tomorrow you can like kind of start doing a little more and charting a bit more. I did chart some yesterday. She showed me some things, and I'll have to show you guys this like big like list thing of all of the possible like, I don't know, patients I could get. And at first I was like, oh my god, and they were like, no, it's mainly just so that we can keep track of like the kind of patients we've been giving you. You know, if we've been giving you a lot of like this one type of patient, like we'll try to like give you variety so that you can see as much as you can during your orientation. And I guess they make one for everyone, but when you guys see this chart, you're gonna be like, wow, that's a lot. But yeah, I will check in later today. Good evening, because it is 7:32 p.m. Day 2 is done. Day 2 was so fun and cool. So my floor, I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but we have a lot of things and we get a lot of like endocrinology, renal, diabetes, liver and kidney transplant, genetics, rheumatology kids. And so what we had to do today we had 3 patients, and on one of them we had to do what's called a hypoglycemia challenge. So basically we were titrating her fluids. She was on dextrose 7.5% with normal saline. And so we were basically kind of trying to induce her to be hypoglycemic so that we could run a bunch of labs, because these labs will help determine what is wrong with her. So it's very like intense, and you're very like intense as in like you're just in the room nonstop basically for the first 40 minutes straight, because once you drop below whatever the parameters are, you know, you have to draw labs at 10 minutes, then 10 minutes after that, and you have to just keep doing that. And so you just need like a lot of hands, because somebody is, you know, doing the labs and somebody's labeling them, somebody is putting things on ice, somebody's like sending them in the tubes. So it's just very like hectic. Even before, you know, like if you're kind of anticipating doing this kind of challenge, like you want to create like a little bucket with all of your supplies, because when you're in that moment, like you don't have time to, you know, go looking around, because like I said, a lot of these things you're doing every 10 minutes. And by the time, you know, that everything's like said and done, it's already like time to do the next thing. So you're basically, excuse me, hospital air is so dry. I need to drink water. But you're basically in the room for 40 minutes straight, and then you wait a little bit longer, and then you would check at like the 1 hour mark. But it's not, you know, 1 hour after you do the last check. It's like 1 hour since you started the whole process, if that makes sense. And then at the 2 hour mark. So yeah, it's just very like long and tedious. And we actually they're actually gonna have to redo the challenge on this one kiddo tomorrow, because one of the values that we got for one of our priority glucoses, I guess to them wasn't like making sense. It's just very frustrating, because it's hard on, you know, the kiddo, it's hard on the family, it's hard on us, the nurses who were doing all of this. But, you know, thankfully the family was super understanding, and, you know, ultimately they just want their kiddo to get better. So I'm not back tomorrow. I'm back on Friday. Hopefully by the time, I don't even know if I'll get the same, you know, kids back. But if I do, hopefully they'll have that resolved. And then a different kiddo of ours was, you know, pretty much just like a genetics kiddo. And that is just, we're just gonna have to wait and see, because they have to do a lot more genetic testing to try to like figure out what's going on with them. But today, I guess they had some good news, because they were in talks with a different hospital. And based on what we learned from the different hospital, they might be narrowing down what they think that this one other kiddo could have. So that was really good news. And then our last kiddo was wasn't like a new onset diabetes, because they were already diabetic, but the medication that they were taking metformin, no longer was controlling the diabetes appropriately. So it was just, you know, more so they came in with high blood sugars, high A1C. And so we are just basically starting them on insulin and doing education, and they'll probably go home tomorrow. It's a really quick stay. I got to do on that diabetic kiddo, I got to chart on them the whole day. My preceptor asked me to chart on them all day, and, you know, she showed me what I needed to chart, and like how to do it. And, you know, I think it's really, really helpful. I was just talking to a friend about this today. I cannot imagine. I'm so thankful that I have already worked at this hospital for the last 2 years, because even though I was just a PCA, like there is something to be said about just being familiar with like knowing where things are, or like knowing somewhat like how to mess with the computer system. We use Epic, and, you know, kind of having a general idea of things. And just because even during when I was helping with the hypo challenge, like I wasn't drawing the labs, I was running the labs, and I knew how to, you know, print out the labels and how to label them and how to run the labels and all that. I just was like, props to all of the new grads out there, just whether, you know, you've been a PCA or not, which I think is very helpful. But just like, it's such a luxury, I'll say, that, like I said, I've been working here already, and I don't have to start completely fresh. It's very nice. So yeah, that's been really cool. And I got to set up some meds today and got to give some meds. Since I work in pediatrics, we use a lot of medications we'll give in like syringe pumps. So it's like we use Alaris pumps, and you like, you know, put them in and prime the tubing, all that, which was cool. Felt very like official doing that. It was just a cool day. And the hypo challenge was very, I don't want to say like exciting, but it was like, it was just very, it felt very real. Like it was like, oh, okay. And I remember even my preceptor, she asked the doctor, she's like, okay, so we're doing this, we're going. And it was kind of like, all right, we're going, you know, because like I said, it's nonstop. So I don't know, like the adrenaline of it was just kind of like, oh my God, like I'm really in the nursing game. Like this is crazy. So yeah, it was an eventful day, and it was a very good day. And I'm sure that, you know, if I was the primary nurse and just had to do that all on my own. It would have been probably very overwhelming, but thankfully my preceptor is amazing. Who I'm precepting with today, because I actually, throughout my whole orientation, I have a 12-week orientation, I probably mentioned that at some point, I will be having different preceptors. So when I'm back on Friday, I will be with someone different. Overall, it's been good. Oh, and I even gave report on my one kid. What was really nice was my preceptor asked me, she was like, hey, like, do you want to practice giving report to me? And then after I gave report to her, she was like, okay, I think that you could probably give report to the oncoming nurse. You know, after she gave me some pointers on, you know, things that we were doing. And yeah, that was it. And I'll show you guys our insulin correction paper thing, because I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, let me flip the camera really quick. So we have this insulin bolus calculator, and this is just what we use for, in this case, this kiddo was getting Humalog, which is a fast-acting insulin. So my preceptor color-coded this for me, but so the purple values are the set variables, so the doctors will set these. The yellow numbers are numbers that will change because, you know, what, based on the kid's meal, it'll have a different amount of carbs or what their blood glucose is. And then the orange are the boluses, which, you know, it'll just be the total. So this was for breakfast. So the breakfast tray had 79 grams of carbs, and so we knew our carb ratio was 10, so we got 7.9 for that. And then the morning blood glucose was 294, so our correction target is 120 for his glucose, so the amount to correct was 174. So we divided that by 30 because that was the set correction factor, and then we got 5.8. And so then we add those two numbers together, so we do the 7.9 plus the 5.8, and we were rounding to the whole unit because sometimes we can round to the half unit, but I guess everybody like over a certain age will round to the whole unit. So since we were rounding to the whole unit, we got 13.7, meaning that we would be giving 14 units of insulin. And yeah, very cool. So yeah, overall, I think it's been a really fun experience so far. I don't want to sound like at all overconfident, like I don't think I could, oh my gosh, like yeah, I could just go handle my patients on my own and I could just, you know, no, like that's not it. But I was feeling really nervous before all of this, and I think it's, you know, a combination of having a good preceptor and just being really willing to learn and do stuff, and knowing that someone's got your back to like help you and correct you and guide you. But it's been really good so far, and it's not been as bad as I was expecting. But again, it's only day 2, and the responsibilities will only grow and the expectations will only grow. So I feel that, you know, this is a good start, and I will check back in day 3, but I guess my update is so far so good. I will see you guys on Friday. You guys, I literally just like today, I can't. I'm just laying in the grass, okay? I'm just gonna lay right here. Hey besties, I figured I might as well just turn this into like a week 1 and a week 2 update, because we're already past week 1 and week 2 and I still haven't uploaded this video. So I guess I'll talk about week 2 in this little clip right here. So week 2, so we did 3 in a row, which like I've done before in the past, but yeah, because the first week it was like, I think I was 2 on, like 1 or 2 off, and then whatever it was. Anyways, so week 2 was 3 in a row, and I mean, pretty much like all that I've been doing, not like all that I've been doing, but up until this point now, kind of started like taking 2 patients, but like not fully independently myself, but like being responsible for charting on 2 patients for sure, you know, and like trying to do a lot of the cares and stuff. And so my preceptors haven't been giving me like the most complicated patients either, so like that's been nice. When I was precepting in the spring semester, like my goal was to be able to like pretty much mostly independently be taking care of 4 patients on my own. I mean, it was obviously like adults, it was different than pediatrics, so it's like still an adjustment, but I think that really helped. Like that experience is definitely helping me now in transitioning to, you know, like I'm the nurse, you know, but I've pretty much like taken care of diabetic patients, I feel like is what I've been assigned as like my patients or whatever. That's been fun. It's been interesting. We've had some DKA kiddos, and I had a kiddo the other day that was there for like a lupus flare-up, and they were going home that day pretty much anyways, and so it wasn't anything like crazy or intense. But yeah, I've been working on like delegating and even like messaging the docs and just trying to think of suggestions for the patient, or like, you know, questioning orders. Like one of our kids who was in DKA, we were questioning whether, you know, the carb ratios were appropriate, whether the insulin was enough, because that kiddo was like pretty insulin resistant at that point, and they were a lot more kilos than the average kiddo, their age, if that makes sense. So the dosing of insulin that they were receiving just wasn't like appropriate. Like they were dosing it for that age, but not for that weight, you know, if that makes sense. Because I feel like in pediatrics, everything is a lot more like conservative when it comes to medication dosages and all that. And it should, you know, everything should be with more caution. This was like an older kiddo. And like I said, and in school, you know, like if you're not giving enough of a medication, that's not good either, right? I feel like I'm not really saying much. But yeah, it's not been too bad. It's just we're kind of taking things one day at a time. And I had like a situation where like I was like looking at the orders, and the doctors had put in an order for a priority potassium for this one kid. I called my PCA and I was like, hey, could you go get this? And then they put it in, I think they had put in an order for another kid. And then like I went to go get that med or whatever. And so I called my preceptor, was like, hey, the doc's ordered another potassium. I asked our PCA to go get it. And also they put in an order for this med, and I went to go grab it, and my preceptor was like, yeah, good job. Like, she was like, you're messaging the docs and everything. I think that's great, especially because you're only in week 2. Like, so I think we're doing as great as we can be doing for week 2, right? So yeah, that's really my only update. I guess we'll see what happens this coming week, and I'll let you guys know. But I will chat with you guys next time.